Time to get foul-mouthed, folks. Hey there, I am the Mighty Plantain, and while I have never hesitated to be foul-mouthed on this channel, this is the first time I think I've done a beer from Foulmouthed Brewing in South Portland, Maine. This is Egregious Cosmonaut. It's their Russian Imperial Stout, and it was aged in Buffalo Trace bourbon barrels. So, this is bottle number 747. Ooh, I got 747. It's nice to have a number with some kind of meaning. Of 900. Bottled on November 27th, 2018. So it's a little over a year old. So probably bringing this late to the party, but hey. It's a bottle-conditioned beer. Contains yeast sediment. So I better be careful. Oh, boy. See, Jay warned me about this, if you're watching. I just started doing some home brewing. I recently finished my first batch, and I'm thinking if there's yeast sediment in this from a Russian Imperial Stout and it's any good, I'm going to want to try and harvest some of that yeast and keep it alive. Problem being, my wife ain't too keen on having a bunch of jars of yeast in the refrigerator, and I don't have a second mini fridge anywhere that I could stick it in, so might have to buy another bottle of this someday. I'll try to brew a Russian Imperial Stout from a kit first before I start going out on my own. Anyway, sorry for that little segue, folks, but Jay, you know what I'm talking about, and I know what you're talking about. I am fucking tempted to pipette some of this shit out and see if I can grow it, but that's for another day in the future. Probably not as far away as I want to pretend it is. That's pouring out dark. I'm going to be careful here not to disturb the yeast on the bottom. So I am doing a bit of a slower pour, which means I'm not getting the head on it that I probably should. Now this is also at 10.5% ABV, so it's going to be a fairly boozy beer. Really strong alcohol content, so we want to be careful with that. Now, I did give it a slow pour to try and avoid disturbing the yeast sediment. And I can actually see a little bit of gunk on the bottom there. Pipette or a long cotton swab. I could pull that gunk out and grow it. Alright, I gotta get up past that. Now, if you noticed, as I was pouring it, it kind of effervesced like a soda more than a beer. Again, I had a slow pour with a low angle because I was trying not to disturb that yeast sediment, and I'm pretty sure I left most of it in there. But it bubbled up quick with small, very energetic bubbles and then went away fast. More like I said, a Pepsi or a Coke than a beer. But it does seem to have settled a bit. Still has a bit of that soda-like appearance, and if I tap the glass, I'm getting bubbles coming up like a soda. So that's interesting. But that, look at that color. Forget the effervescence for a minute. That is fucking black. That is completely black. There is no light coming through that beer. If you look down here, the thinner part of the glass, there's like a very, very thin hairline area where you can see a little bit of light getting through, but that is blackout black. Holy crap. That's a beautiful, very, very dark beer. I'm actually maybe getting a little bit of sweetness in the aroma. Yeah, just a hint of sweetness. Very, very minor undertones of chocolate and coffee. So, obviously a heavy mouthfeel. A slightly oily component to it. That is interesting. Now, 10.5%, I'm getting the expected booziness from it. Into booziness up front, but for such a heavy mouthfeel beer, it swallows easy. It's pretty smooth. And then as it settles, I'm getting bourbon, wood, bourbon notes, woody notes, hints of chocolate and coffee in the finish, and maybe a little bit of vanilla. A little bit. But I mean, the bourbon flavor definitely comes through right after you swallow. There's a bourbon flavor coming right up there. It's not like a glass of bourbon flavor. It's like a beer that's been aged in a bourbon barrel. You get that combination of the bourbon flavor with the wood, and the wood actually is more intense in a barrel-aged beer than I believe it is in a bourbon, because there's less of the alcohol and booziness to actually interfere with those flavors coming through. So you get more of the flavor of that barrel. Those barrels are always charred on the inside because they want to get that wood nice and caramelized so that it imparts flavor to the bourbon that's put in it first. And when you reuse those barrels and age a beer in there, it picks up all those subtle notes, some of the less subtle notes, and I think that because it's a beer versus an actual hard liquor, it picks up more flavor from the barrel than the liquor would. That's my opinion on it. I don't know if there's any science to back that up, but I'm sure there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that people agreeing with that. I don't know if I used all those words in the right combination. I don't really care. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm sure it made sense to most of you. And this beer is awesome. I'm hitting it with a 4.5 out of 5. I'm really liking the smoky, woody bourbon flavor that I'm getting there. There's a little bit, like I said, a little bit of booziness up front, but it's expected for a 10.5% ABV beer, and it fades quickly as you're drinking it. It's got a nice, heavy mouthfeel, but it's easy to drink. It's very smooth regardless of that. And again, just that smoky bourbon flavor, followed by what you would expect from a good stout: chocolate, coffee, and hints of vanilla. It's pretty complex. So it's as close to that perfect 5 out of 5 wow beer as I can get without actually hitting that wow factor. Because I've had some really solid Russian Imperial stouts before comparatively. This one's at the top of the pile, just like the others, but it's not quite that perfect 5 out of 5 wow factor for me. I've got a couple that have hit that with the Russian Imperial Stout style, but that's as close as I'm going to get to it without actually being blown away. But yeah, really great beer. Hit me up down in the comments, the email link down below. Love to hear what you have to say about the beer. While you're down there, don't forget to like and share the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Till next time, folks, thanks for tuning in. I'm still eyeballing that yeast clot because okay, I am not set up to harvest yeast yet, and this beer is probably going to be made again. So, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.